Hey Jim, waiting for Gary to join. Just give 1 minute. Jim, you are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Change the background. Here we go.
Gary is joining from the attendees side.
Lakshmi.
Hi, Jim. Hey, Gary, can you hear us?
Yeah, I don't see Gary here.
He requested something a moment ago.
He requested the mic access. There you go.
Hello,
Gary is
Yeah,
here.
There we go.
Gary is here.
Hi.
Hi, Gary.
Hello, Vidya. Hi, Jim. Hi, Suresh. Thank you. So I am now host. Vidya.
Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I don't see my camera. Why is my camera not enabled? Oh, something's here.
You should be enabled now,
Oh, it's
Gary.
on.
You
Now?
should be enabled now. You can enable
you
it
see my
now.
camera now?
No, you have to enable it. It's disabled. Like I enabled it from here, but you can turn it on.
Oh, now. Okay. Yeah. Just didn't see the icon. Okay. So can we start? Hi, Jim, Mondi.
Hi, Gary. How are you?
Can you hear me well? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
So,
yes.
Okay. Can we start?
Unknown caller.
I think so.
Okay. Good. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Rueda Sandoval, co-founder of TMMI America, director, board member, TMMI lead assessor, and I used to be full expert level. And also I act as a CEO of my company, Business Innovations. Now I'm thrilled to introduce our keynote speaker, Jim Mondi. Jim is a vice president at Cognizant with over 30 years of consulting experience across 14 industries. He's led practices in digital business and IT strategy. And today, he'll share his insights on how to drive generative AI solutions into quality space to drive business value and speed. Please join me in welcoming Jim Mondi. Jim, please,
Thank you, Gary.
give you the stage now.
Thank you very much. Am I going to share my materials, Gary, or do you have them? Should I share them?
No, I don't have them.
Okay.
Please.
Oops.
Can you share then your material?
Let me share. Let's see here. Trying to understand how that happens. I apologize.
Below, if you see the buttons, there's a
share screen, right?
Share screen button below. Yes.
And then I can pick. Let me get to the right. Let me blow this up. And let me come back here. Let's hopefully this share. Okay. Again, Gary, thank you very much for the introduction, and I'm very pleased and excited to be here. Again, I'm going to talk about the business value and the transformative nature of Gen AI. I think there's been a lot of discussion topics around Gen AI today, as well as obviously it's very much in the market. So I'm going to share again my perspective.
Jim, excuse me.
Yes.
Jim, you're not sharing. Okay, now. Okay, it's taking a while. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Now I see your presentation. Yeah, it's good.
Hopefully.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Thank you.
Hopefully, I guess I'll go slowly through the slides. But again, I'll talk about the future of Gen AI and then give a perspective. I'm a vice president at Cognizant, as Gary said. I've been in the consulting industry for 30 some odd years, a very long time, primarily at the intersection of business and IT and quality and risk. So it's been a great experience so far. What I'll talk about today is first expectations around Gen AI and how it applies to the QE testing space. Then I'll talk about some specific applications within the IT SDLCs and how it plays out. I'll talk about some ability to adopt it and share some proof points. And then I'll get into some of the business outcomes that I and my clients have derived from applying Gen AI. And I'll have some insights at the very end and time for questions. So as again, we all know, Gen AI is the latest technology that's been put out there in the landscape, the latest evolution. And this is, as we all know, transforming businesses, industries, and in particular, the QE and testing space. There are every day new tools, new technologies, new frameworks of how to apply Gen AI. But one of the things I want to really focus on is really how to get value out of Gen AI. And the expectations, particularly in the boardrooms, are extremely high. Cost pressures and challenges continue to persist in the market. And how do you really derive both efficiency as well as efficacy and effectiveness with the AI algorithms and with the data? We know Gen AI is expected to increase productivity, but we are seeing many of those in the marketplace struggling to realize that productivity. And we expect Gen AI to improve the quality as well and mitigate the risks. And we'll talk a little bit more about these and how we can present that to leadership and again, get others on board. What I've found is that some organizations are jumping right headstrong into Gen AI and experimenting with it. Some organizations are really cautious and waiting and being second followers. But organizations have to assess and understand how Gen AI can be implemented across their landscape, whether it's the IT process of testing and your maturity and how those models take place within the walls of IT. But as importantly, or more importantly, it's how those can drive faster business value, integration, and improvements and customer specific value. So it's the next stage of driving innovation forward. We're seeing or boards are expecting efficiencies of 25 to 35% across the life cycle. So for those of you who, as part of your IT shops, I'm sure getting pressures on how that 25 to 35% is both measured and realized. And in some ways, testing and quality have been underinvested. So how do you go to management and talk about how you can reinvest some of those efficiencies to achieve better outcomes and more risk-effective solutions? So some specifics around effort savings for the automation phase. This one's relatively straightforward, assuming AI can generate 15 to 20% effort during the test automation script development, 20 to 25% during the test scenario creation, and 30 to 50% during the automation framework migration. But I would ask you to step back and evaluate how that this Gen AI can be applied with a business lens such that you may not need as many test scenarios created. You may not need as much automation because of how you evaluated Gen AI and how you can deploy it within your environments. And that will save and start to drive towards that 25 to 35% results. But this is not easy. And I think those of us on the phone know that it's easy to make these statements, but it's really hard to realize the actual business value. So if you look within the IT shop in the systems development life cycle, again, here's some examples of efficiencies and productivities expected because you put a Gen AI framework, tool set, approach within the particular area. Planning and requirements. Ideally, you can narrow down and focus on requirements that are of the utmost risk, and you can get 10 to 15% just by doing that. The test case design, 15 to 25%. The actual automation and continuous engineering, 20 to 35%. The feedback loops and the ability to react more quickly because you have Gen AI based monitoring and dashboarding, you get 20 to 30% more. The triaging and the ability to find gaps and or drive analyses, again, 20 to 30%. But all of these, depending on the size and scale and nature of your shop, these may also be resulting in part-time improvements or part-time FTE savings, which are not realistic. So I think in combination of looking across the SDLC, you should also, again, work with your key owners and drivers and understand where you can reinvest those part-time evaluation, where you can reskill your quality and performance people to drive more value. Again, you'll have cost savings and cost avoidance, but I think if you can convince the organization to reinvest that, to even get that higher level quality, that better managed risk, is really the scenario that makes more organizational sense. Not everyone agrees with that, though. But this spans the spectrum of roles and capabilities that testing brings to the forefront, and it's across the maturity. So as you evaluate this, certainly this plays back into the TMMI framework and assessments. Moving on to the next slide, what we've seen with organizations adopting QE with AI infused in it, 75% are still experimenting, piloting, just getting down to the implementations of it. And while they experiment and pilot, they're discovering more technical debt. They're discovering other challenges and business process opportunities, which I think they're bringing back into the organization. That being said, 25% have already started to scale and really are really migrating towards business as usual leverage of Gen AI. So if you're in the 75%, it's good. Very few organizations are not experimenting with this, but recognize that some of your competition may already be scaling this and driving some of the outcomes and results that is to their benefit. Some of the proof points around this for AI and QE, we had some opportunities with a multinational health insurer, generated different test suites across the very complex filing applications and demonstrated a 20 to 25% gain in the health insurance space. Another example, we leveraged Copilot and a telecommunications client to drive code reliability and robustness and lifecycle up, which resulted in a 35 to 40% reduction in manual efforts. A third, again, these are cross industries, in a financial services organization, leveraged GitHub Copilot to convert automated testing scripts to a unified framework. There was a 40 to 50% savings. Again, these are tool dependent and framework dependent. So as you look at your maturity across the testing lifecycle, understand if examples like this could play out in your space. I think a third dimension to think about is leveraging Gen AI to drive simplicity across the landscape. These are very complex business processes. They're very robust. There's a lot of use cases and scenarios embedded in them. So try to figure out how Gen AI can be applied towards, again, with the business process lens to figure out where to invest and focus on it, and where the quality and risk is mitigated the most within your business cycle. Some going to business outcomes, and again, it's all about the business in the end of the day. And it's all about testing and quality such that there's a business value derived out of this. I know some of the other speakers and panels talk about, I think, some of the tactics and tools of how that can take place, but don't lose sight of the business value, the business processes, and applying a reliable, reusable framework for responsible AI. I think one of the risks around AI is trust and responsible application of it. And I think it's very important to think about that framework, think about how that you present and depict that framework to those not in the IT arena, such that they understand the robustness of it, understand the value of it, and understand why it's worth the investment. Around trust, risk, and security, I very recently was at a conference where so much of it was around the security aspect alone. You need to demonstrate that leveraging Gen AI will actually boost trustworthiness, will actually make things, again, more explainable, more simple, and reduces the complexity, that it's more reliable, it's faster, but it's more transparent. I think there is a view around in the organization and in the environments that Gen AI kind of hides certain aspects, and we have to build that trust and that transparency. So think about how applying Gen AI can actually drive and yield more transparency, more trust in the system. And it's the right blend of conventional quality engineering, again, coupled with the AI principles and comprehensive AI assurance approach, which I'll talk about in a moment. But I don't think, and I could be wrong, but there's always going to be some conventional quality engineering, quality planning, testing across the landscape that will always be critical. I think there'll be opportunity to drive it speed, but that core of how quality is planned, evaluated, executed, implemented will continue to be there. And I think the focus or onus shifts more on demonstrating that to others as much as it does to actually executing on it. Moving to the next slide. Again, this comprehensive Gen AI assurance approach really covers four factors, four areas. One is around the data assurance. One of the biggest challenges, again, for all of us in the space, is around the data, the large language models, the reliability, the quality of the data. So understand the quality and the value of the accuracy of the data, understand how that data can be enhanced, modified, corrected for the training and the testing. That is extremely important and cannot be underestimated, because that will also yield the value of trust. The next, the model itself of how you're applying it and driving it. You got to make sure that it aligns to the measures and metrics and the understanding of those non-IT owners, not those business leaders as well. There again, it goes back to expectation management. I saw a phrase around turning from zero to hero, but I think that sets expectations which maybe are unrealistic. So it leads to the third thing, is around trusted AI assurance. We have to be able to understand the inner workings and the reliability checks and demonstrate that on an ongoing, continuous basis to those key stakeholders within the ecosystem. And then the operational AI assurance, ensuring and monitoring that the AI models performing reliably and safely in those real-world environments. All of those lenses need to be incorporated into an AI assurance approach. So it does integrate with business process automation, workflows, API, and you can, again, use Gen AI to really identify those gaps or holes that may be there. Around performance and security testing, I think Gen AI is a very valuable aspect and framework around security testing and performance to ensure there's no degradation, and to proactively identify the risks related to security and performance. And then finally, the continuous monitoring and observability. You can leverage Gen AI to, again, proactively or predictively figure out what is happening, where there are quality risks that may occur, and then you can do it at scale as well. But this is part of a broader IT ecosystem and a business process ecosystem, and it does require that the key stakeholders across the business ecosystem, again, are aware of what's happening, aware of their role, and how that role is critical for the overall success to driving the efficiency and effectiveness. Again, some of the outcomes that my client base we've seen is when the natural language processing and speech recognition, we're seeing more and more speech-based and or semantic or conversational-based solutions being applied, in this case for a healthcare insurer. You got improved coverages through speech and text. You've got requests self-served by the voice assistant. I think I've seen clients better understand that AI voice end client and customer interface to be more efficient and more effective. And you got 40 to 50% reduction in the model quality assurance. So the voice area is rapidly evolving, as we I think all know, but that will continue to evolve and continue to drive opportunities for additional self-service. Form recognition, assurance fraud, and understanding fraud and waste in the system. You can apply Gen AI to improve your business accuracy rate in production and compare and throw the forms that are coming in against those models and or those instances of proper data, proper understanding, and then drive a significant efficiency on the accuracy of the business side, as well as, again, gain some efficiencies on the testing and QA side. A third aspect, Gen AI-infused underwriter processing. Again, there's prompt-based design and automation to drive the baselines and drive better risk scoring, better custom scoring to improve accuracy. Like here is an example, 80% reduction in cost to process submission. Again, there's efficiencies on the testing side, but I really think you focus on the top 3 points underneath each of these outcomes. Those are real business value, real business costs that are being taken out of the system, or revenue that is being generated incrementally because the AI assurance approach, thoughts, and frameworks were put to the forefront. So it's easy to say these things, but it takes a significant amount of executive leadership management, of business leadership management, and IT leadership and management to actually make these become a reality and derive the true savings. I've seen many organizations create that business case, that value, that model that depicts the savings, but then there's not the rigor and discipline to actually derive or generate that savings and ideally reinvest that in other parts of the business to drive the overall business value. From a conclusion standpoint, as with any other technologies, Gen AI is both, the future's bright, but it's scary. And we can see some bad behaviors out there in the market, some bad and malicious intent, both on the quality and the testing side, some other security aspects that Gen AI can ideally both address, but others have Gen AI and are using them against us. So you think about that from a QA and a testing and a risk standpoint, how we can basically outsmart those that are trying to outsmart us. It is absolutely changing the role of testing and of quality engineering, and both in terms of building the trust and continuing to understand the risks and being business focused, as well as when you drive efficiencies, you're changing your testing organization, you're changing your testing model and the skills, the capabilities, the knowledge that your testing organization needs to have and needs to prepare for in the future. So think about how that is set up today and how you can prepare your team to really, again, understand the applications and implications of the Gen AI assurance approaches. Costs, as always, are going to be questioned and maybe questioned even more. In my experience is that I've always had to defend the value proposition of testing. They always seem to want to cut the cost of testing. And if anything, with the application of Gen AI in the space and AI assurance, it's more important than ever to defend that value proposition and to be bold, to put that in front of senior leadership, be brave to depict it, to think through it, and to be persistent and passionate about it. And I think those characteristics and approaches and qualities will continue to get the organization to understand the need for this more than ever, the need for a maturity model, the need for how this helps the brand. And those are some different lenses to think about this, how this can help the brand in the marketplace and how it can help position the organization against the ever-changing, ever more competitive landscape for its success. So my last statement would be, I think quality and testing are as and more important than ever and will continue to be more important. But with Gen AI, you got to really think about how we can drive it to a whole new level, how we can drive efficiencies, how we can really understand and make simple the messaging to the non-IT, the non-Gen AI affluent people, such that they understand it. That's a key, is how you drive platforms and tools, but how you make sure your communication is very simple, very straightforward, very to the point, and very quantitative, so that other leaders can understand it, get on board, and go defend it when they are amongst their peers within your organizations. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time. This is my contact information. Love to spend more time, connect on LinkedIn to talk more about this. And if there's anything I can do to help to put a lens against that value proposition, that business understanding of AI and Gen AI, and how that can be effectively leveraged within your organization, please reach out to me, and love to continue the discussion. At this point in time, I will escape this and come back, and let's see if there's any questions or topics that others want to discuss. Hey, Gary. One topic I'll throw out there, for us testing practitioners, this just does very much change what we do and how we do it. And as I talked about a little bit, if you are leading a testing organization, more than ever, you'll be expected to be more efficient, more effective, drive higher quality. And it's very important to be able to measure that, to portray that to your key stakeholders, and to be bold about your own organization and how you're evaluating your organization in terms of their skills, capabilities, and knowledge within the Gen AI space. It's coming whether we like it or not. So if you don't get on board, others will get on board. If you don't proactively manage those expectations, they may come back to cause significant problems later on.
Okay, Jim, thank you. There are some questions. Can I ask those questions to you?
Yes, please.
From the audience? Okay, so the first question is, AI models can sometimes produce false positives. Isn't this a waste of time?
So, it's a great question. And that is a challenge that cannot be ignored. I don't think it's a waste of time, but it's important to understand the risk of those false positives being created, and either one of two, how you can reduce those false positives, how you can proactively, before others, identify those false positives and take action, or how you can prevent those by having the right data, the highest quality in your large language models, such that is reduced. That being said, one of the biggest challenges and risks are false positives and the small impact that false positives can have. Another aspect, I think about 4 dimensions around this. There's reliability in that we want to reduce the false positives. There's also recovery. They can't not, I do not believe, be 100% ever eliminated. So think about if and when they do occur, what your recovery approach is from a testing and quality and a risk standpoint. And then there's fairness in that when they do occur, you have to be fair to those in which the consequences are incurred. And again, there's a 4th dimension, surprise. If you can proactively reduce the number of false positives through active monitoring, through data quality, through setting up multiple tiers of testing and quality, I think those are dimensions. So reliability, recovery, fairness, and surprise would be lenses to put on the false positives. The question of whether it's a waste of time or not, others will figure out ways to optimize or control those false positives in your industry through different applications of Gen AI and platforms and tools. So I don't think it's a waste of time at all. It's just being aware that they're very real and understanding what your reaction and or proactive activities are to prevent those. Great question, though. Gary, is there any other questions or?
Okay.
Did we just lose Gary? I'm looking, I don't see any other questions. The other thing, again, I want to emphasize is expectation management or organizational change management. This, like other technologies, does have a dramatic impact on your organization, how they perceive it, what they expect from it, and how it changes their roles, their day-to-day activities. You cannot underestimate that. We have to constantly innovate. We have to change. We have to have an organization that wants to adopt, that wants to try these and fail quickly. It's like experiment, try, fail quickly, but then scale. It's going to happen either way. So those organizations that have a consistent application, a framework to put these out there and then be able to assess quickly whether they're achieving the objectives and to fail quickly are those that are going to find a lot more success. But expectations have to be managed. Right now, CEOs are under incredible pressures to derive value and to just apply Gen AI. Their boards are demanding it, even though they quite often maybe don't even understand what that means. So think very clearly about how you understand those expectations, how you manage those expectations. It reminds me of the old Mark Twain novel, the Mark Twain quote, which was, I would have made this letter shorter if I had more time. So simple, straightforward, effective communications are a huge part of the Gen AI solution sets in our space. So Gary, I think you were back, and then I think we might have lost you again. So, but keep that in mind, simplicity to address complexity, it takes a lot of effort and time, and that's another principle to really put out there as you navigate this space. Data, again, as well, data is of varying degrees of quality, and with any large language model, you'll get the false positives, you'll get the challenges. If the data and inputs and interfaces and information are of not the right quality, you will struggle to drive the results from your testing and understand them. So more than ever, there's self-healing code, there's low code. If I think ahead to what's next, We've got quantum computing coming on, and the combination of quantum computing at the speed and scale and Gen AI related activities in the quality and testing space will going to create, we should be able to mitigate significant risks and drive quality to a higher level, but be wary of the risks and the others in the market that may try to have negative action towards our IT landscapes and our systems.
Hi, Jim. Are you there? I'm back, I
Yes,
think.
hey, Gary.
Okay, so the
Yes,
next question
no, no,
we still have 5 minutes. So the next question. Considering the recent layoffs in large organizations due to the adoption of AI, how can we shift the mindset of employees in testing and quality assurance to see AI as a tool to support and enhance their work rather than replacing jobs? What steps can organizations take to ensure a smooth transition while protecting job roles? Long question.
That's a great question, and very
Yeah.
much a threat to all of us. When I talked about our roles, this absolutely is a threat to the traditional testing role and organization.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's two aspects of it I think about. One is our organizations need to provide the proactive skills, knowledge, and expertise for our testing brethren to train on, to understand, to invest in. And that's part of some of the return on Gen AI. I would strongly encourage us to figure out how that can be reinvested back into the broader testing organization to continuously improve ourselves. I think another part, though, is a mindset. We have to all be comfortable being uncomfortable more than ever. We have to constantly figure out approaches to invest in our knowledge, our training, our understanding of the Gen AI tools, the platforms, the frameworks, the measures and metrics. I would encourage, one approach I've seen happen is organizations take an amount of time per week or even per day to either invest in understanding and reading and training, or invest in debate and discussion around Gen AI and applicability of different understandings to our environment. So, but it is a mindset shift. It's not going to be an easy one. A lot of organizations are used to a fairly stable, I'll call it, approach, and this is not going to be that case. To be honest, it hasn't been for a long time, and as organizations figure out how to move ahead. So reinvest in yourselves, whether it's through organizational efforts or individual efforts. And be ready, be wanting to change. I think those are aspects that have to be there for this to take place. You are going to have colleagues who are not ready, and unfortunately, colleagues may choose or be chosen to move on from organizations. That will continue.
Okay.
But one other comment on that. Well, one other comment. I know Gen AI is being used extensively for auto code generation and for low code and no code. I would premise that the quality testing and risk lenses need to be, again, invested in more than ever. So with the right mindset, the skills, capabilities, and knowledge that a QA organization has are going to be needed more than ever. But you have to do some management expectation setting. You have to make sure you get the dollars and understanding and demonstrate that value proposition, you have to defend it. It's there more than ever, and that's something also I'd go on the attack, on the offensive versus waiting to try and do that.
Okay, thank you, Jim. It's very enrich, and your explanation enrich the idea that the job loss or the Gen AI is not a threat; it's more an enrichment to our lives, to have more time to dedicate in more creative activities. And it's a mindset. It depends a lot of us. And
Gary, I think we lost you again. But on that note, I greatly appreciate everyone's time, and I welcome again the conversations. Hey, Suresh, I think Gary's having some.
Yeah, it was a great session, Jim. I think yes, it was very insightful.
But happy to have ongoing conversations and share perspectives based on individual circumstances. Everyone has a different set of circumstances in which they operate, so it's a great challenge for us.
Hey, feel free to continue this conversation on social media and tag us, tag the conference Test Formation 2025. Thank you so much, Jim. This was a very insightful session, and it was a great conversation to have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.